My name's Ben. I'm from Beccles, so not too far away from Norwich, about half an hour drive. And I study history in my second year, well, end of my second year, so soon to be a third year, coming near the end of my degree. I'm not the biggest fan of the architecture around campus, but it is nice. Everything's sort of located where you would expect it. It's very easy to navigate around. But I do have a favourite spot just, I suppose it's technically on campus, around Earlham Hall, the Dutch gardens in the area around that. It's really nice trees. It lets you get away from the brutalism and cityscape of the campus. This has always been such a difficult question to answer. Just no, I wasn't raised Catholic. I'm a convert. In fact, I was baptized in this very room a year and about 4 months ago. But in terms of my actual backstory, it's always been a difficult one because when I've told it to people, it kind of feels fake. The version I say to people is around 2020, around the first lockdowns. I had a lot of time on my hands, always been interested in debates and things like that. Started watching a lot more atheist-theist debates, and I had been interested in that sphere before, but never to the same extent. The theists had much more of a point than when my RE teacher would give their arguments. And then that started on a cycle of reading more and looking into the studying. So I decided to study the resurrection of Jesus. It seemed to me that almost every religion seems to make some claim about Jesus, and I'm a historian at heart, so I would love something I can tackle through a historical lens. And it is far and away the best attested historical event until about 1850, maybe earlier in the 19th century. The evidence is phenomenal. And then as soon as you're reading those sorts of sources, you're talking about like Ignatius of Antioch, things like that. People who refer to the church as the Catholic Church, talk about bishops, talk about this very distinct ecclesial structure, things on the Eucharist. Seemed like only the modern Catholic Church matches the early church. And if Christ rose from the dead, then Christianity is true. And if Christianity is true, I have to trust that the apostles were Christian. And so I want to be in the same church they were in. Now, I say that feels a little fake because it sounds like I sort of sat down with all these papers, which wasn't necessarily true. It was definitely in a sense in which I had a strange feeling like I had to become Catholic, and I couldn't talk myself out of it rather than purely arguing my way into it. I was definitely drawn in rather than studied my way in, but there was a lot of study as well. One of my favorite things about Catholicism, to me, Catholicism is like being moved to tears over a good classical piece. Like being stunned by the beauty of a Shakespearean text or wowed at the glory of the stars. What I love so much about Catholicism is its abundance. And I don't mean that in the physical wealth, although that's part of it. The idea that the Catholic Church is so overflowing with beauty, especially the easiest one to see, that as soon as you begin to deal with these things, it doesn't need to be presented to you. Everything is so soaked in it. You get the same, I think, if you look at the divine aspects, truth, goodness, and beauty. Catholicism so overflows with truth that where I can go to a philosopher like Nietzsche, his ideas are interesting, it's fun to deal with, but there's something shallower about it. Whereas I can wrestle with Aquinas for as long as I want and I will never get to the bottom of it. I can look at as much architecture and art of the church, and I haven't even scratched the surface of all its beauty. There's so much goodness overflowing. If I want any example of heroic virtue in any state of life, I will find it in the church. The number of canonized saints is close to like 100,000, something like that. And the first step to being canonized is heroic virtue. So it's clear that Catholicism is of God. If God is truth, goodness, and beauty, and he's so gracious that he gives us all of himself, then it would be the body that overflows in those things, and that is the church. Being Catholic at university has It's made some things easier, it's made some things harder. So it's certainly hard to explain to people outside of the faith, and creates a sort of barrier sometimes there where people come with their preconceptions. But the benefits of it have been incredible. As a student, it's given me a home away from home, a community to call my own, people I can always go to. And my faith has always been a comfort in the hard moments of studying, moments where you would think, where you would consider giving up. I can do this for the glory of God. I can subjugate my desire to this to something else. So I would say overall, being a Catholic has really helped me at university. There have been challenges, but we're promised challenges by our Lord. So yeah, Catholicism shapes almost everything I do, especially being a historian. It's so easy to work with it. Touching on the medieval period, which is my favorite to study, it's hard to overestimate just how much the church is a load-bearing structure in the medieval world. It influences everything about what I'm reading. And I realize now that my previous understandings of the medieval world were always so limited, because fundamentally I didn't understand the medieval person. I didn't understand these historical people because I couldn't grasp the most important thing in their life, which was their faith. And now I can get in touch with what they're talking about when they talk about doing a certain devotion on a saint's day. I know what they're talking about immediately, and I can begin to understand why they're doing it and their motivations. Catholicism has given me a sort of historical empathy, if I can put it that way. Why am I Catholic? Because it's true. I mean, I can give a longer answer, but it all reduces down to because it's the truth. I tried everything I could think of to talk myself out of this when I was first converting, because I knew how difficult it would make parts of my life. And I couldn't, because I know it is my conscience that I have to follow it, because I know it to be true, I know it to be good, and I know it to be beautiful, and I know it to be the fullest expression of what our Lord wants for us.